and that was back during the time when milk prices were really starting to spike for the first time that we noticed, and we thought, this is stupid. If we're going to pay this much money for milk, we should be getting what we pay for. In other words, we understood that getting milk goats was not going to necessarily lower the cost of milk for us, but dollar for dollar, we would be getting a much better product in our milk, because we're of the opinion that milk you buy in the store is basically worthless. You know, it's just sort of milk flavored water, if you will. And so we went, chickens first. I don't remember how long we had chickens before we took the plunge in goats.
Not long.
Jared, tell me when I talk too long, but I got to tell you the story about how we got into goats. We decided together that we were going to do the dairy goat thing. So we said, okay, let's find one. Or no. I said I've got to taste the milk first. And everybody, if you get nothing else from this show tonight, write this down. Don't go to the grocery store and get goat milk to find out what goat milk tastes like. We did that, and it was the most foul liquid I've ever put in my mouth. I literally couldn't swallow it. I had to spit it out. I'll tell you why in a minute. I learned later what I was tasting. So that was the end of that. Well, some period of time later, months I think, a friend of Patty was at a friend's house who was also homeschoolers like we are, for something totally unrelated, and they had goats, and she related that story to her friend, and she was like, oh, girl, no, come with me. And she gave her some of her fresh milk, and Patty called me and said, look, that's not what it tastes like. And I said, okay, I trust you. Let's try again. And long story short, we found a goat and went out there, and it was kind of funny. The little man brought me, we were looking at the goat about to make the deal, and I told him, I said, sir, I've got to taste this goat milk before I buy it. And he said, okay, fine. He went inside, got a wash rag and a glass, came out and cleaned her udder real good and squirted some off, and then squirted about half a glass full. And he reached the glass out to me, and then he pulled it back, and he said, I got to warn you. And I thought, oh, no, here we go. And he said, it's going to make you want to throw rocks at cows. and he gave it to me, and it was just this. It was like nectar. It was the sweetest. It was very, very good, and we've been hooked ever since. And of course, since that time, we've added Jersey cow.
There you go.
Yeah. I was supposed to say, since that time we've added, because, and I'm sure we can talk. I don't know how specific you're going to want to get later, Jared, but with goats you don't get a lot of cream, and we can explain why that is. And I hope you'll remind me to explain why that goat milk tastes bad in the store. But we added a Jersey. We've got two. We've got a Jersey heifer and a young Jersey that just left here today to go to my cousin's house to get bred. So.
Yeah, and my favorite now is Jersey cow milk. So I do like that better than goat milk.
Well, after
the
last show, Pepper and I were kind of talking back and forth, and Pepper, I'm going to call you out on the carpet here. You said you didn't know why anybody would ever want a goat, and I kind of thought about that a little bit, and yeah, you did. I'm gonna say, I don't have you on recording, but I've got it right here.
I don't recall that. That's an unconfirmed report.
Anyway, I started thinking about it, and I think there's probably a couple things for the viewers out there that if you're thinking about getting into an animal that might produce milk for you down the road, or right now you're looking for something just to help keep the hedge trimmed back, whatever the case might be, I think there's probably a couple considerations, and you guys jump in on this when you're ready. I think on the cow side, let's talk about milk. On the cow side, you're talking about getting an awful lot of milk, so either you've got to be ready to use it or be able to give it away or produce another product with it. Like Pepper's got a great series of cheese-making videos that he's been doing, and I found those pretty interesting because he talks about all the different processes of where, hey, at this stage, then this part could be used for your whipping cream, or we're going to take this and go do this with it. And he kind of really breaks down for you all the things that you could do with the cow milk. Whereas on the goat side, you're not going to get near as much milk per day, and I am not entirely understanding all the different ways that you could use the goat milk, but I do know that it does not separate, and I'm not going to get into all the fancy terms because I'll screw them up, but it does not separate as well as, well at all, really, like the cow's milk does. Now, I've seen people make cottage cheese just as easily as Pepper did in his videos, using the goat milk, but I'm not sure just how many other varieties you can really get into with a goat. I think probably the biggest, I had to go with a goat if you would ever use that when it comes to milk is lactose intolerance. I have no experience with this, but everything I have read says that if you have lactose intolerance, you may be able to drink goat's milk if you're unable to tolerate cow's milk.
Well, it also has to do with pasteurization.
Okay.
Pasteurizing kills off the lactose enzyme that's in the raw milk that lactose intolerant people can't process. So pasteurized milk across the board is the number one problem with lactose intolerance. I've heard that before about goat milk as well, but I've also heard people who say they can't drink pasteurized cow milk, but they can drink raw cow milk. It's because of that. But anyway.
That's okay. That's a good point. I didn't know. I didn't think about that. Now, if you're talking
Jared,
about, go ahead, Patty.
The main difference that I've found with the goat milk versus the cow milk, as far as everything you can do with it, is that the cream, you'll get a very, very small layer of cream at the top, hardly enough to skim to make butter with. But I have made the different cheeses with my goat milk and with my cow milk, which I don't make a huge variety of cheeses, but I'm able to do that with the goat milk as well as the cow milk. It's very rich because, like, the cream don't separate. It's all mixed in the milk, so it still makes very good cheese.
Okay.
And an additional benefit to goat milk, potential benefit to goat milk that is not available for cow milk and from cow milk, and don't panic, Pepper, we have cows. We drink cow milk. But you may have heard that honey from a local beehive will help you with your allergies. We found the same to be true with goat milk. The reason being that cows primarily eat grass. They will eat browse, meaning bushes and whatnot if they're available, especially if they don't have a lot of grass. Goats prefer the browse to the grass, and goats make their milk out of the same thing that bees make their honey out of, basically, the same type of plants and whatnot. And, I'm not offering scientific evidence, but we can say anecdotally that the first year that we had goats, we drank nothing but goat milk, no store-bought milk for a year. And we had, I don't remember how old our kids were, but they were all small. So we had a house with 4 kids in it, and for the last 10 months of that year, after we had been drinking nothing but goat milk for 2 months, we did not have a runny nose in our house with 4 small kids for 10 months.
Yeah.
And I attribute that anecdotally to the allergy remediating properties of inoculation of the goat milk.
And honestly, my kids haven't had a problem with poison ivy and stuff like that. I mean, they may have gotten it a little bit, but none have been very allergic. And I used to be very allergic to poison ivy as a young child, and moving here, I haven't had poison ivy.
Is that because the goats eat the poison ivy, or because the goat milk inoculates you?
Well, because the goats eat the poison ivy, and it kind of inoculates you, kind of like getting allergy shots. From what I understand, that's what it's like.
I mean, we've read that, and we're just, again, anecdotally, it seems to bear out. If we still have poison ivy, they don't get it all. Poison ivy is on our property, and our kids are in the woods, especially the boys, in the woods all the time. And we've only ever had 1 or 2 very mild cases.
Yeah, mild cases
of poison ivy exposure. That could be coincidence. Maybe we just don't.
And maybe I've changed. I used to get it as a child playing in the woods, but I've not gotten it living here in Mississippi, going in the woods, working or anything. I haven't gotten poison ivy.
In 13 years.
So.
Pepper, what were you trying to show us over there?
Oh, this is 1 gallon of doe's milk, and I don't know if you can see the cream line in there. Is that showing up?
No.
No?
No.
It's not showing up? Right about here is, see that line right there?
Vaguely now, yes.
But yeah, that's the cream. Of course, this is significant. This is a mark of a Jersey cow. They have more cream than pretty much any other breed, and the cream is useful for all manner of things, including just straight eating.
Hey, but I'm going to claim the remainder of my time to go back and tell you about why that goat milk tastes bad in the grocery store. This is actually very important information for anybody who's considering adding goats to their homestead. You need to know that there's a handful of dairy goat breeds. I'm talking about dairy goats. If you want meat goats, there's boar and maybe one or two others and a couple of crosses. But as far as dairy goats are concerned, there's Nubian, Toggenburg, Oberhasli, Saanen, La Mancha, Alpine, a Nigerian dwarf classifies as a dairy goat breed. Here's a general rule of thumb. A general rule of thumb is that dairy goats, the flavor of their milk is susceptible to environmental influences. And almost all of those breeds, that actually includes odors in the air. If there are strong odors in the air where they live, it may flavor their milk. That's what happened with that. Once we had goats on our property, and I knew what a male goat, what a buck smelled like, I knew what I had tasted in that milk in that grocery store.
The buck smell.
Milk tasted like a buck smells. But here's the final thing. Nubians, for some reason, Nubian dairy goats are not as susceptible as the other breeds to environmental influences. They will not, the flavor of their milk will not be affected by odors in the air. So we went with Nubians.
Well, you say that, and now I wonder, we've got a mutt of a goat. I don't even know what she's got all mixed in her, and maybe she's got more Nubian than, and I'm going to show my ignorance here, but the Nubians have the floppy ears. Is that easy way to say the Nubian? So I don't think...
They're known for the long floppy ears and what's described as a Roman nose. I don't know why it's called Roman, but it's a long nose.
I think ours is actually an Alpine mix, but I say that to mention that there's been 2 times in the 2 years that we've been milking her that I've ever noticed her milk change flavor, and I have always thought that it tasted like a grass. It tasted like like I had just grabbed a weed and shoved it in my mouth, like she had got a hold of something that transferred over into her milk. Yet I have a Kiko, I think is the breed that he is, stud, that is only 15 feet from her. And if you get up on him, if you were to pet him with your hands, you would be washing your hands for the next 20 minutes trying to get the smell off your hands, but he does not affect her milk. So, I mean, I hear where you're coming from, but I think at the same time, like you say, it's a general rule of thumb. It's not going to apply to every goat out there.
No, that's right. It's a general rule of it's a general rule of thumb. I've seen your goat. I think your goat has some Nubian in it. I don't know how much. I don't know if that's the reason why hers is not flavored. But again, it's just a general rule. It doesn't mean that every goat's going to be that way.
I'm going to bring some sanity to this goat fest right now. For all of you normal people out there watching this who are thinking, goat milk, no. What you want to do, go find you a local dairy that has Jersey. If you've never had Jersey milk, you've never actually had good cow milk. Our vet said that his dad said that the best way to have a farm is you have 2 cows. You've got Holstein, the black and white cow, the Chick-fil-A cow. That's the milk that's in every grocery store in America. You get a Holstein milk and a Jersey. You drink the Jersey milk and use the Holstein milk to wash your dishes with, because it's basically water. If you've never had Jersey milk, go find you a local dairy. They're basically small dairies that use Jersey because of production. And anyway, find you a Jersey dairy, have some Jersey milk. You've never had milk unless you've had Jersey milk. And if you have one, I doubt you'll ever get a goat.
All right, Pepper.
Well, that's not true, because we've got Jersey and drink its milk and also have goats. So, but he's right about the Jersey milk.
It's great.
He's right about the Jersey milk.
Well, we started with goats. But it is nice to have the goats to be able to still keep having milk when you dry your Jersey up for her next calving. So that is a good plus.
Pepper,
but he's right, folks. The Jersey milk is fantastic.
Yes.
We give ours 20 pounds of grain a day. I actually did the math on it. We get 4 gallons of milk out of dough, and we're giving her 20 pounds of grain a day. We're spending $5 a day to get 4 gallons of milk. That works out to about $1.25 a day in grain. Add in, $200 a year for vet bills, and we're getting our milk for $1.50 a gallon, and it's better than anything you'll ever get at the grocery store. You can't beat that.
One thing I wanted to ask you guys, I've never raised cow. I've never had raw cow milk. I'm not opposed to it. I just never have. Is it just a simple matter of you milk the cow the night or morning and you want some milk later, you're just going to go into the refrigerator and shake it up a little bit before you drink it? Or how do you reconstitute the two different, the cream and the whey back together before you start slugging it back?
Well, we skim ours off because we use the cream to make butter and ice cream and all manner of things. So we drink skim milk, but that's only because we have plans for the cream. If I were to shake this up, cream would get now I wish I hadn't done that. The cream would get rehomogenized, and my sons, one of my sons can't stand seeing little clumps of cream float at the top, so he shakes it up really well before he drinks it. But we leave it 24 hours in the fridge, and the cream rises, we skim it off, and we're good to go.
Yeah, and we do that too. We skim it off too. But if we're not for some reason going to skim it off, if we want, because we don't skim it off of every batch because we want to drink. We like the taste and the flavor of the full whole milk. We put ours in wide mouth pitchers so that all you got to do is stick a utensil down in there and stir it up real good to get it mixed back up, and then make sure you lick the spoon, but don't put it back.
And my neighbor across the street.
Go ahead.
My neighbor across the street drinks skim milk, and so that's what he gets all of our skim milk. They drink a lot of milk, so that's what we do with our skim milk.
My wife went to Walmart and bought one of those pitchers with a little plunger that stirs up inside, and so that's what the boys use to remix their milk with. They just give it a couple of plunges and it remixes in, 10 seconds or less, and you've got rehomogenized milk. But I'd also encourage you, go out there and find a small local dairy, and if you can, drink raw milk. There's a whole rant that I'll go on to. Maybe we'll have to schedule for December at this point. But drink the raw milk if you can. There's all manner of health benefits. There are no health downsides to it. If the person is, as long as they're not, milking in muck and mire. Let me tell you what. I visited a dairy. I will never drink store-bought milk again just because of the unsanitary conditions I saw at that dairy. We're not going to go into that right now. But anyway, if you can find it in your area, drink raw milk. There's all kind of websites you can go to that show the different laws in different states. I know in the state of Mississippi it is illegal to sell raw cow milk. You can sell raw goat milk as long as you have 9 goats or less. I'll have to explain that. But if you can find it, find a local dairy that sells Jersey milk raw if you can get it, and just support those guys.